Hey, everybody, welcome back to this episode of Think Business Live Wealth Edition with Jim Nizinski and myself. Jim, always great being with you to co-host a show. I want to tell everybody who you are so they understand the co-host. I'm a business coach, and Jim is a wealth manager with Motive Wealth Advisors. He is a fiduciary wealth advisor, and they're located in Birmingham, Michigan. He and I are teaming together in this series to talk about wealth. Right, which we all want to do. And we are fortunate enough to have CEO and founder of Momentifi, Gibran Nicholas, with us today, and also the founder of The Story Seller. And, you know, we were talking briefly before we went live and talking about the importance of story. And you do so many things at Momentifi. You're also the founder of CMPS Institute, mortgage training, certification training, and we're going to dive into a lot of things that you do. But one of the things that really drew me, and I was really looking forward to this conversation, was your passion for building two things: community and better storytellers through story selling. Because to me, even in a post-COVID world, that is the two of the most important skill sets that you need right now. Every business owner needs to be thinking about how they can build a community within their world and how they can get their people to share, express, and tell a better story. So let's start there. I want to know, before we dive into really the business, what does community and what does story mean to you?
That's a great question. And thank you, John and Jim. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today and with your audience. For me, the concept of storytelling always goes back to a concept called the hero's journey. And it's a concept that was explored by Joseph Campbell in his book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. Yeah. And whenever I've gone through ups and downs in my life, I always come back down to, what's the story I'm telling myself? Right. And so last year, I was kind of alone. I mean, you started by asking the question of community when the whole COVID thing hit. Normally I'm used to meeting clients and traveling and having elaborate steak dinners and wine and just getting together with my community, my people, right? And, sort of talking about business, how I can help them grow. But when that all sort of went away with COVID, we had to cancel a lot of business meetings. I came down to, thinking to myself, what can I do to maintain that community that I have with my clients? And then so that's where the genesis of this idea came for the story seller. So basically we created this private social network where online we can get together and share stories, So with my clients, who are primarily trusted advisors, mortgage bankers, real estate agents, financial advisors, business owners, we get together online and we talk about how we can be better storytellers in our business. And the concept of story selling, which is using the concept of story to sell more effectively. And so for me, community is about getting together with like-minded individuals, and we're going on a destination. We're on this hero's journey on a destination someplace. We want to grow our business, and we want to do it with people we like to work with. And that's, to answer your question, my concept of community.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and selling, I think it's important to underscore, is a good thing. It's not the bad selling. See, as a fiduciary from the financial services world, I have a reaction to that term because it means convincing somebody to do something they shouldn't. But that's not what you mean. And that, John, that's not what you coach your sales people that are our clients. And Gibran, I know that's not what your community is doing. Is it the most effective form of collaborating and transferring information perhaps that ever has been? And so it's a helpful thing. It's not a convincing thing. And that's what you're up to.
Absolutely. And I think back to the great salespeople in my life. When I first started in business, in fact, I tell the story in episode 3 of my podcast. I look back and I said, okay, so who are the people who influenced me in business? And they were great salespeople. My Uncle Tony, for instance, was a fantastic salesperson. He would get together with me and I was starting a business. He sold copy machines. And so he helped me understand the value of why I needed his work. So if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be able to, print out materials like loan applications to serve my clients. So he sold a service that was vital to me. It was a unique value at that time in my career. And other people in my career sold me things that were useful. So when I talk about story selling, it's really about highlighting your unique value and how that value could help the customer get to where they want to go in their hero's journey. So you're like the trusted guide in their journey, really selling them back the story that they want to achieve. What does victory look like for them, and how could you help them get there? That's what we're talking about when we talk about story selling.
Yeah, I'll add one thing to that is stories show results. They tell the story of results and through somebody else's eyes, right? You're just the storyteller. You're the vessel sharing perspective from other people's lenses about you, right? Or about the company, or about, in this case, a certification. And so let's talk about that certification, and let's talk about the things that you're learning in story sellers. Your company Momentifi has a few different arms to it. One of them, as you are the founder of CMPS Institute, which is mortgage training and a certification company. I think companies, it's interesting because I'd like you to touch on this a little bit. I think a lot of companies, especially in a post-COVID world, are trying to figure out how to, get people certified in things. And I think that, you look at Google, for example, right? They're coming out and they're attacking a market where they're saying, I don't know if they're saying, I'm putting words in their mouth, but for those that don't go to college, you can get Google certified in many different things that make you very priceless in the workforce. Because a lot of the things they're teaching, they don't teach you in school to the extent. And so you have this certification in this specialty with this niche with real important skills behind it. So talk a little bit about how you kind of came up with CMPS Institute and really the benefits to the person who's taking the class and getting certified.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks, John. CMPS Institute was started in 2005. So running on, what is this, 15 years. My gosh.
2005 seems, maybe it's just me, like 2 years ago.
I agree. Yeah.
I can't even comprehend that it was, so long ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the concept was focused on helping a loan officer who works at a bank or a mortgage company sell the financial aspect of the mortgage when they're talking to the customer. So, for instance, how does it impact their cash flow? How does it impact their ability to save for college for their kids, or their own retirement? So that's actually how I met Jim. Is when I was a mortgage banker back in the day, I would refer clients to Jim and he to me, and we were working together in a very collaborative relationship. And so I found in my career that loan officers did not really know how to do that well. Right. And so that's why we created CMPS. I created it with some partners at the time to help a loan officer understand the financial aspect of working with the mortgage with the customer, and then also why they should be collaborating with the financial advisory team as they give their clients housing and financial services. So this is really the genesis of CMPS. Stands for Certified Mortgage Planning Specialist, and a loan officer who takes the course. We've obviously updated the course every year since then to account for all the tax changes and all of this. But it really is a 15-module course that helps loan officers understand the financial planning aspects of doing a mortgage for the customer, and why they should be also working in collaboration with the other advisors on the team.
Yeah, John, if you were to try to parachute into any town in America and say you want to find a loan officer and you didn't have any other referrals, a great place to start would be here, because the people that decided to go through this course are taking a more in-depth approach to figuring all of this out. They want to learn, they're engaged, they're collaborating with advisors. And Gibran, I don't know of a competitor in that space, and I think you've trained thousands and thousands by now, right?
Yeah, we've had over 8,000 graduates of the program. And so if you go to our website, cmpsinstitute.org, there's a place at the very top where you can find a CMPS in your market. And so if you go to cmpsinstitute.org, then click find a mortgage professional in your market, then it'll come up with a list of people in your area, in your state, who are certified. And this is something that we're passionate about. And then, over the years, we've grown our services to also offer continuing education courses to real estate agents and financial advisors. So for instance, this year we're launching, it's called the Certified Storyteller course, and it's launching in February. It's approved for 10 hours of continuing ed for financial planners, CPAs, and real estate agents. So we're really taking the concepts of storytelling in the financial services space and bringing it to the trusted advisors who can benefit the most from it.
I love it.
Yeah, housing, mortgage, financing, obviously it's been on everyone's mind. Can we take a quick cul-de-sac on that topic and just mine your expertise for a moment and say, anyone listening, what is the hottest topic? What should they be thinking? What should be on their mind when it comes to that portion of their wealth, their real estate, and the financing of it?
Well, thanks, Jim. I mean, there's, I think, really two things. If you're a homeowner and you want to stay in your house, what should you be thinking about right now? And then if you're a home buyer and you want to buy a new house, what should you be thinking about? So maybe if we talk about those two things, and let's take the first, let's say I'm a homeowner and I want to stay in my house for 5, 10, 15 years, whatever the case may be. Interest rates are at all-time lows and the housing market is really, really strong. So if I haven't refinanced yet, then I really ought to be thinking about doing that. And if I'm thinking of making home improvements, now's a really great time to do that as well, because you can borrow money at such low interest rates. 3.5% is pretty low, and then you can lock in that rate, put some additions on your home, or redo the kitchen, do whatever it is you need to do, and then benefit from the increased value in the home. So if you're looking at your home as an investment over time, now is the time to be investing in it, because of the fact that A, you're locking in a very low payment on whatever it's costing you to finance that improvement, and B, the housing market's still pretty strong, and you'll see that recovered by way of home price appreciation. So if I'm putting in, an updated kitchen and it's going to cost me 20, 30,000, whatever the case is, I might be able to recover that if I go to sell the house in a few years. So it's not that I'm just splurging on, spending something that is not going to, retain its value. I'm investing in my wealth and my future. So if I'm a homeowner, I want to think about making some home improvements. Now's the time to do it. And I want to finance those improvements, because why liquidate investments? If I have 20 or 30,000 available, for a home improvement, why not keep that money invested and use a 3% mortgage? Am I able to earn more than 3% in my investment? And the answer is probably yes. So that's why I probably want to think about financing that as a wealth building strategy, as opposed to paying cash for that. So that would be my advice for a homeowner.
I like that advice. So what do you say? I just want to expand on that for 1 minute. What do you say to somebody who heard that advice, agrees with that advice, but doesn't know what the first two steps are and want to actually spend the time doing it? Right? Like going through the process, because it doesn't happen, you don't decide on a Monday and then everything's done on a Tuesday. And so and one of the things I find as a business coach is everybody doesn't have enough time for things. And so to put another thing on their plate, even though it sounds like it's the right move, it's an investment in themselves, it's an investment in their home, there's a long-term, opportunity with it. How do you get people to actually, right? So this goes back to story selling. How do you influence people to actually make a move?
And before you answer, Gibran, I right now have a client I serve who I did a research on did quotes for refinancing from lenders across the country. I'm working with a CMPS certificate. We've got an amazing quote. It's all teed up. And this executive is very high up and is very busy and would love to do it, but he's right now been dragging his feet. And so he could save a lot of money. It's a no-brainer financially, right, but he hasn't yet internalized that story and hasn't been catalyzed to action. So
now I'm going to share a story. So if that person is listening, right, we're talking about story today. So I'm going to share a story of my mess up that cost me a lot of money. I have been using the same insurance guy since I was 21 years old, JJ Reifler at Karakin Insurance. And my insurance for my house, my homeowners, he had gotten me a new quote. And he was like, you got to get this new quote. It's the best deal for your house. You want to move from where you are. I was like, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I put him off for like 6 months, and he would follow up with me and he'd be like, you ready? I'm telling you, this is something you should do. I put him off. Well, 6 months later, where I didn't have any time, we had a horrible flood in like 12 counties here. My basement was completely flooded and lost 95% of everything in my basement. I mean, with, sewer water. So everything had to be ripped up. I lost over $100,000 worth of stuff in my basement. And my rider with my current insurance company was only $10,000. And had I changed with him, I would have gotten over $100,000 of everything back.
Wow.
And so that is a real life story of why, move when you're supposed to move.
Yeah.
All right.
I would agree.
Gibran, enlighten us.
Well, I think when it comes down to the two stories you guys shared, it's not about being motivated by the dollars and cents. It's about being motivated by what the dollars and cents mean for your life, right? Mm-hmm. And I think in your case, John, if the insurance agent was able to, share a story of how another client may have, been in that same situation and all the pain they experienced because they didn't make a decision, that story may have resonated with you at the right time. But maybe because he didn't tell you, sort of stories and how other people have had pain because they didn't make a decision, that maybe didn't motivate you. So maybe he was talking to you about the dollars and cents and not so much about, the stories that may have connected with you on an emotional level and urged you to make a decision. And it's the same thing, Jim, with your client who's procrastinating. He might understand logically the dollars and cents behind the decision to refinance, but for some reason, the dots haven't been connected for him in terms of the emotional aspect of why that impacts his life. Yeah. Right. So if he's going to save $500 a month, what's that $500 a month going to do for his life? Is he going to be able to flip that into a college savings plan? And then if so, what's the impact over 5 years if he invests $500 a month for 5 years? So if we can amplify the number, it's not just about $500 a month. It's about, what's the compounded value of that $500 a month for 5 years invested in a kid's college plan. And it's going to spell the difference between them going to Harvard and going someplace else, or going to U of M and going to a community college, right? So if we can somehow tie in the life story of what the dollars mean for the person's life, that might be the thing that's missing in the story that we're trying to tell the customer.
Yeah. I love how you're talking about quantifying everything. And I just got to give JJ a plug because he did all of that. I just didn't listen. I was like, I'm too busy. It was like my go-to. That lesson taught me a lot though, about, you got to take action and you got to listen to the people and the mentors that are surrounding you and advising you. You really do. I mean, that was a big loss because I was just, and in hindsight, I could have found the time. So JJ, thank you for the follow-up, but it was my fault. I got to take ownership of it. All right, JJ, Jim, go ahead.
John.
I don't want JJ to listen and feel like I'm throwing him under the bus. I'm not at all. He's the greatest. Right.
There's an element layered in here, I think, that John, you and I have talked about before, and it's the deep inner work of those of us telling the story to really believe what we're talking about and put ourselves in position to actually genuinely care about the person we're telling the story to. Because if that's not there, then it's selling. It's not the proper definition of selling, as I was saying at the beginning of our time. And so you definitely believe what you're talking about, John, because you went through it.
Yeah.
And I know if you were telling me that story, you genuinely would care about me and my family and my basement. And so we need to do the work as professionals, any business owner, to do the work to care about the person and find that inside of us. And that's the magic of the story, because then it's real and people know that. They know when someone's faking it.
Yeah.
And I think that element, when missing,
it doesn't work.
It tastes terrible.
Yeah.
Sometimes in a context of a sales conversation, using flashbacks is pretty effective. Like, you think about any good movie, like one of my favorites is The Godfather. They do a lot of flashbacks to him growing up, and it gives you context into the person's life. So if you're a trusted advisor and you're finding that, the customer is not connecting with what you're saying, maybe do a flashback in their life, asking them a question like, so give me an example of, the biggest financial mistake that you regret. And so you go back and then you sort of have them tell you a story of the time when they made a mistake financially and how much that cost them in their life and what the pain was. And then you say, so what if we could have made this change before you went through that and made this different decision? What would the outcome have been? And then you sort of bring in the story now and say, so now we have another example of that. Now we have the opportunity to make a life-altering choice. We're at a crossroads, and we wouldn't want to have regrets in the future, which is why, as your advisor, I'm recommending that we do this now instead of waiting until later.
And the research, I read an article years ago about flash forwards, and they had people imagine themselves in the future, and they found that people who went through that exercise made decisions today about their finances that more aligned with that future they desired than if they didn't go through that exercise of flashing forward and imagining their future. So flashing back into story, flashing forward into story can help all of us find motivation to do the things we really believe in and value, but have a hard time doing, like changing that insurance premium.
Well, I want to say also, and I want to move into the speed round in a minute, Gibran, but I think one of the obstacles that I see as I coach people is they're afraid to ask, right? So I'll say that if you want to double your business, double your asks. If you want to, quadruple it, quadruple your ask. So sometimes to ask the flashback, to ask the flash forward, it takes practice, right? So I think that's something that everybody should be putting into their world. Practice your craft. And so when it comes to selling, what's your philosophy on practicing your skill?
Well, that's a great question. And I think the best practice that I would recommend is take one thing at a time and play around with it. So don't try to, do flashbacks and flash forwards and, all of these things all at once. Just pick one thing and say, okay, this week in the next 10 conversations I have, I'm going to focus on this one thing, asking this one question, right? So just insert one question into your next 10 consultations and see how it goes. See where the conversation goes.
Good advice.
Right. So I would try to keep it simple. And the value of this, John, as a coach, you want to just get the person to embed something into their habits, into their daily habits.
Yeah.
Because if you embed it into your habit, according to Duke University, 40% of the actions we take every day are habits, right? We don't really think about it. We just do it out of routine. So if we can just plug and play one small habit and then see the impact of that, and then maybe in the next month do another small habit. So I guess the question I would ask is, if in your business, what can you implement just one thing and play around with that one thing over the next week or two and see how that might impact your business.
Yeah, it's great. That's a great Jim, you got a question?
Well, just Gibran's been a successful entrepreneur, and listeners should heed this counsel. What this is becoming is whoever's listening, what your next step is probably in your business or in your personal finances. And Gibran, you brought up, even just addressing the mortgage on your home. If you're hearing us, just take action. Just decide that next action step right now and allow this episode, this podcast to be our encouragement for you to not pause, to not procrastinate any longer. Take that next step, whatever that item is for your business or your personal wealth. That's going to be the takeaway from me from our friend and successful entrepreneur, Gibran, today.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Gibran.
I agree. I love it. All right. Quick speed round, Gibran. You ready? I agree with that. I concur with everything Jim said. Favorite book and why?
Oh gosh, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, Joseph Campbell. I mentioned it in the beginning.
Yeah, he's great.
It puts everything in context for me in my life. Yeah.
Okay, done.
You're
Jimmy,
up, John. Oh, you're the speed runner today.
All right. Best piece of wisdom you ever received?
Oh boy. Don't be attached to the results of what you do. Just focus on, focused on what you're doing, the value in what you're doing, not necessarily the results that it produces.
Okay. Last question. One thing everybody should do starting today to make 2021 their best year ever.
That was going to be my question.
Oh, well, you told me you didn't have a question.
Yeah, I know.
I think tell yourself a better story. You know, the most important story we tell is the story we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
So if you're going through a successful time, you know, ask yourself, what can I be grateful for, and how could I share in the prosperity that I'm having? If you're going through a tough time, ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? So really, it's, I think, about what is the story I'm telling myself about whatever it is I'm experiencing, good or bad.
All right. Tell everybody, Gibran, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. I'm glad that Jim got us all connected to talk. You know, that I don't even want to recap, because I think you just recapped everything you said perfectly. Tell everybody your ideal clients and how they can get a hold of you.
Well, thank you. You know, if you're a trusted advisor or a business owner and you want to be better at storytelling, whether it's telling yourself a better story in your business or telling your clients a better story, you can help them overcome and get to where they want to go. Bless you, John.
Thank you.
Visit thestoryseller.com. And we're doing lots of training and storytelling inside the community. It's actually a community you can join. We just are on week 4 right now of a 2021 jumpstart to get you jump-started in your business as it comes to story selling. So that's what I would say is, if you're a trusted advisor or business owner and you want to be a better storyteller or a better story seller, then visit thestoryseller.com and let's, you know, join our community and see if there's any value there for you.
All right. Very grateful to have you on the show. Great connecting with you. Jim's got to end with a couple compliance stuff.
Oh, I always forget. Thank you, Gibran. And I do, because of regulations, I need to say that I, Jim Nizinski, am a registered investment advisor who offers investment advisory services through Motive Wealth Advisors, a DBA of True Independence Asset Management, a registered investment advisor with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Any material discussed is intended for informational purposes only. It should not be construed as legal or tax advice and is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified attorney or tax advisor. This information is not an offer or a solicitation to buy or sell securities. The information contained may have been compiled from third-party sources and is believed to be reliable. Gibran, it was great to have you. Great to see you. Thanks for all your wisdom. And
thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Gibran. Thanks, Jim. That was fun. Thanks, Gibran.
Thanks,
hey, if anybody needs Gibran, reach out to him. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
You bet.
All right.